Autumn Fairy is a mix of inspiration from Camila Reis and her dryad, combined with the Sylvari design from the online game Guild Wars 2. She's a birch fairy with leaf wings and thick curls. I wanted her to have a long scarf and various cozy things, like a teapot and an acorn cup. Autumn is beginning, and I can finally retreat into my workspace to enjoy those autumn vibes. So, let's get to work. First, I started with digital art to establish the basic colors and finalize the overall color scheme. I experimented with various color combinations, but I preferred the one that captured the true essence of autumn. I chose this design. It features yellow, orange, and the perfect touch of red-tinted leaves. For this repaint doll, I selected the Frankenstein model due to its soft and rounded facial features. The first step involves removing the factory settings from the doll. For this pose, I need to cut the torso, neck, and legs. I always wear protective goggles when cutting to prevent any plastic shards from getting into my eyes. I had a clear vision for the Autumn Fairies pose from the beginning. She will be walking through the forest with her arms gently raised. In my design concept, I envisioned the doll without gender-specific traits, so I'll also trim down the chest. On a round wooden stand, I mark the main support point and drill a hole. From my collection, I select hands with an interesting pose. Now, it's time to try everything together. The leg is drilled through and through, and a wire is inserted to secure it to the wooden stand. Then I can start connecting the different parts. For joining, I use hot glue and wire. All joints are reinforced with super glue. To fill the joints in the legs, I used UV resin, providing extra support and stability. I submerged the head in an acetone bath. Thanks to Camila, I finally understand how to do this properly. Before, I was just guessing. So, a huge thank you. I recommend watching their video for all creators. In the final step, I mark the spots for the wings and create them. Now we can finally start modeling. First, I sculpt the main body parts with epoxy sculpt. The torso, legs, neck, arms, and finally, after it hardens, the chest and shoulders, which are reinforced with UV resin. After finishing the body, I considered how to attach a scarf, so I decided to add another hole. Next, I moved on to sculpting the stand. I can now go over the entire body with a sanding sponge, during which I noticed that I broke an arm. I fixed it with UV resin and sculpted it again. By the way, this happens to me often. Either it falls and breaks something, or I accidentally break it while working. An essential part of the construction is the wings made of leaves and the scarf. I prepare individual wire pieces which I cover with Milan clay. I purchase silicone molds to press the leaves. Besides the wings, I'll also make small leaves for the clothing and a little leaf bag to hang from her belt. I assemble the bag from individual leaves, and while it looks nice, it's a bit too big, so I'll resize it after it dries. For the scarf, I create a wire frame onto which I'll lay the clay. I roll out the clay and trim it to shape. Finally, I add a subtle texture to the scarf using a bundle of wires. Now I start sculpting finer details with epoxy clay, which is better suited for intricate work. I make leg guards and add a wood-like texture. I test the overall assembly again. Once the head is dry, I begin sculpting it, marking key points for leaves with a pencil. I try to follow the design closely, pressing each leaf onto the face and blending them in. I use epoxy putty for these parts. While the top part hardens, I create tendrils around the body. When the top leaves harden, I move on to sculpting the leaves above the eyebrows. Meanwhile, I work on the wings to give them a weathered look and finish detailing the leaves on the face's edges. I glue leftover branches onto the legs with super glue and reinforce them with UV resin. Next, I attach all the leaves and create the skirt. I use Milan clay for the upper part of the scarf and earrings. I left some extra clay at the top of the scarf to cover the joint and create a seamless transition to the lower section. remove any excess material and gently secure parts with a layer of UV resin. Before painting, I thoroughly clean the doll with acetone and let it dry. I also trim the lower part of the head for a better neck transition. Finally, I can start painting with a white base coat applied in 4 layers. I paint the scarf and wings as well. After drying, I begin airbrushing. I start with yellow on the legs, shoulders, upper leaves on the head, and various other leaves. Then I move on to orange and red. I use brown sparingly for the bottom of the legs and the leaves for the final touch. I need to touch up the face since the airbrush colored the white parts. I begin detail painting. Before detailing, I use mister. Super clear to prep the surface. I draw the face with pencils, aiming for large irises similar to the Sylvari race from Guild Wars 2. I want her eyes to be strikingly blue. I shade everything and use vibrant orange around her eyes for shadowing, adding blush as well. I go over everything again with pencils. Next, I use acrylic paints for white highlights and add black liner and lashes for the final look. I repeat the process on the body and leaves. I coat the eyes with UV resin. I then draw all the miniatures that she will have with her. Now I can attach the scarf and wings. Before attaching the doll, I paint the stand and finish it with hot glue and super glue. I add colored UV resin to a cup to create the appearance of milk with honey. On the stand, I start adding clay and dried mini leaves. I glue larger pieces of grass and lightly tint them with yellow pastels to give an autumn vibe. Finally, I attach the head and cover the seam, painting over it afterward. I move on to creating the hair, for which I chose the darkest and lightest colors. I use 100% acrylic yarn. I brushed out and curled the lighter strands to create prominent, beautiful curls. The darker color only needed to be untwisted and glued strand by strand. This entire process took me a day. I tried to follow the design for the hair as closely as possible. Yesenia Breezewalker is an ethereal being who awakens at the end of summer. After combing her curls and shedding her excess bark, she sets to work. She spends her time strolling through the forest, gilding the leaves with her wand. She returns to rest at the start of winter. Her pouch always contains a few acorns, ready to feed squirrels if needed. In her free time, she enjoys sipping milk with honey and taking in the autumn weather. She loves to stay warm with her scarf, which, if you didn't notice, is a Gryffindor scarf. So yes, she loves Harry Potter. Thank you so much for watching and supporting